Hello YouTube, Ronan Kazi. For the love of everything, this thing kills me sometimes. The Druid infinite problem. So recently I've been playing Druid more. I'm getting it up at higher levels. And there's always been a problem with Druid classes in Blizzard games. I played a game called Azran's Call 2, and when World of Warcraft was coming out, the MMO, everyone flocked to it. And that's Roxy late at night, probably going after the cats. And one of the first things, when we're looking over what we're going to be, I was going to be a Tauren Druid. And they could shapeshift, and they could be bears, and they could be lions, and they had their own special place to go to and everything. And when that game first came out, the Druid was woefully underpowered. And so I eventually, I hate to say it, eventually made a hunter and then leveled my hunter up. Got out of the guild, I had come over to the WoW with all my friends, and, then I quit. I went to the other side. It became an alliance, completely different. And so over the years, what Blizzard did is they buffed and they buffed and they buffed and they buffed the Druid until, it had to be great at every single thing it could do. It had to be a great healer. It had to be a great tank. It had to be a great melee DPS, and it had to be a great range DPS. And the trap was that in reality, what a Druid would be like the glue in the group. Like they could switch to any role that you needed in the middle of the battle, and they could do that. And so there's a lot of cool graphics for the Druid. There's a lot of cool looks for it, cool skills. And so I didn't know what the classes were going to be in Diablo 4. I had played Diablo 3, and I was a monk in Diablo 3. And I thought I'd be a monk here, but they didn't have monk. And I looked at the classes, and I was like, oh, Druid, that's sweet. And I've leveled her up to 60 now. And it's been fairly easy. And what I would tell you about classes, period, is that they're all pretty easy. The thing with the Druid, though, what I found in the mechanic is that if you're, for me, right now at level 60, if I'm a werewolf or if I'm a bear form, my generator, my resource generator, is a melee skill. And Storm Strike was a great melee skill when I had a more magic-based build. Nature, magic caster build. But I found a chest piece, a unique one that gave me +2 to every werewolf skill, which then allows you to go deeper into the passives because you're spending less points. Anywhere from 6 to 10 less points getting your skills up. And I ran, and recently, Sloth Moods and I, he's a fellow YouTuber, we ran the level 70 capstone. I was like level 58. Maybe I was level 59. He was level 60. And I just died all the time. I was like, well, okay, I'll just be a bear. And I died all the time. And, I don't know. I probably don't have the best gear. I thought I had okay gear. I was like damage reduction 67% or whatever. And maybe I don't know how to play the bear because I had been playing the werewolf a lot of times. And a lot of excuses. I didn't have this problem on my original Druid build that I had changed to. And that's one of the great things about Diablo 4 is you get so much gear drops. And some of it's so good that it will kind of take you off your path, which I like that and I don't like that. So I spent today in a lot of question about who I was. And I was so disappointed in things I wanted to re-roll. So how does that apply to your life? Did you ever wake up sometime and go, man, I can't believe I'm in the position? And here's a horrible thought. You're laying next to the person, you're like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, what am I doing here? Are these all the poor choices that my life has led me to? Good, bad, and different. Or you wake up in a job and you have a realization like, is this what I'm going to be doing for the next 30, 40 years? Now, younger generations don't stay in the job as long. I didn't stay in my jobs as long. I stayed pretty long in my jobs. The first two jobs, I stayed 13 years each, and the next job I spent 7 years in it. And now I've went in jobs a lot quicker than that now. Partly when I stayed all that time, I was investing in that job. They were investing in me, and I rose up the ladder. So part of that in the U.S. Coast Guard, I got to be an officer in charge. I was an officer in charge for like 6 or 7 years. I couldn't get any higher. The next job I would have got, even if I would have made it E7, even if I would have been a chief, it would have been a demotion. So you wake up one day and you go, man, is this the best it's going to be? So I got out of the Coast Guard. I went to a company that made coordinate measure machines, started off on the bottom and rose and rose and rose and rose until I got into a pretty high position. That first recession in 2008 hit. I said, hey, I'd like to help the company out. Maybe if I go in sales, I can help the company. That's super naive, but okay. And I did that for like 4 or 5 years, and I became a pretty decent salesperson. And but that company started changing culturally. I was in a generation of people that maybe didn't have college, but they gave them, you know, it wasn't what your piece of paper said is what you did. So it was more merit-based. And in a merit-based company, I've always, in the military, I always excelled. And at that company, I excelled because it wasn't who I knew, it's what I could do, and I could do a lot. Along the way, though, as a human being, you know, I kept wanting to keep my options going. Well, I don't want to do this or do that because I don't want to pigeonhole myself in. And so when you're younger, you have the curse of your potential to do different things kind of holds you back because you're saving yourself instead of living right now. You're saving yourself for some future events. And then I went to another company and did a little bit more. And in that company, I rose even further, right? I could do even more. I demonstrated that. And in the middle of COVID, I just said, what am I doing? What am I doing? I don't think we treated the people that worked at the company I was at very well. And I was part of that management team. There was 3 of us, the president, I was the vice president of operations, but effectively I was the vice president of the company. And then we had the controller. And my 2 colleagues, I disagreed to how they looked at the world and how they looked at people, especially during that COVID. So I left there. And I started a new path, and I really haven't looked back. And the job I'm doing now is very fulfilling. Why am I giving you all that history? Because, yes, I want to be a Druid, but I want to be a werewolf Druid, but I want to be a tank Druid, but I want to do this part of the Druid, and I want to do this skill, and I want to have this skill. And what the problem is, that's the Druid infinite problem. You have so many cool things. When I go to fight a world boss, I'm the only werewolf there. Or, you know, other Druids might have those skills. But here's the problem. Those skills aren't going to get you through the end game. Not how the class is constituted now. And I'm not level 100. I don't have everything to the nth degree. But I know I can get through any content when I have this other build, even a little bit higher content. Because I'm ranged, I'm slowing things down. I have slows, I have crowd controls, and it's just an easier game to play. This is normally when I ask you to like, subscribe, share, unsubscribe, resubscribe, hit the notifications. I am trying to get to 500. I really need your help. Whatever you can do to help, if you can share this with friends, see if they, it's not just a gaming kind of thing. I try to put content out every day. I try to talk about things in life, things that can help anyone from any generation. So back to the game, I said, instead of re-rolling a character, let me try it as a tank. I ran that. It was meh. I went back to my werewolf build. It was slightly better. And what you're seeing here now is my traditional build where I have Storm, I have Companions, and I have the heal from Werewolf. And what the mechanic is I get in a group, I'll hit Hurricane. You see there's Hurricane. I build up enough Spirit, and then I do the Lightning. And then when I get enough enemies around me, I'll hit my poison creeper vines that immobilizes everyone. So my Hurricane is making them vulnerable, and my creeper is locking them down and poisoning them. And then I'm doing lightning. When there's 4 or more and I'm doing lightning, it just goes crazy. So I'm back to that build. And I've done this a bunch of times. I probably spent millions and millions of Diablo 4 money on going through my builds. And that's the problem with Druid. Every class has a problem. Barbarian, when I play it, you always have the thing, it doesn't have great heals. It's very robust. Rogue seemed a little underpowered, but it has that escapability. Necro has a mechanic, you know, you could have millions and millions of skeletons, but you're always hitting the button to manage, and the management of it's tedious, I think. And Sorcerer's okay, but it too has its mechanic, its range, it's okay, but it's a little squishy. There's some things you got to do, and it was okay. And again, I don't know all the classes. I'm trying to raise each class and do them at either 5-level increments or 10-level increments for people that are raising those characters. And by the time in a year, it'll be worthless because they'll have re-rolled the characters. The idea, though, gives you a general idea with the characters. Plus, it's a snapshot. But I went back to this build, this Druid build, and it's great. You can see it's pretty robust. I'm in a field taking damage, but as long as I am going to be doing lightning, that heals me. So I have that mechanic, and I also have my #1 skill, which is the werewolf heal that also increases my attack speed. So I hit that. I'm constantly popping that, and I can pretty much do whatever I want. So problem with Druid is you got to know what you want to do, but really there's really the best path to do. Don't know if it's the meta. Don't care if it's the meta. I could do a bunch of build videos, but eventually what I like to show you is the build that is successful for me that I can do all the content with. So this is Ronan Kazi talking to you about the infinite Druid problem, but really it's a problem we all have. It's my potential. Your potential to do what? Do you actualize that, or do you keep waiting? I'm going to wait 1 more year till I do this, or I'm going to wait till I do this. I'm going to suggest to you, for a lot of different reasons that I can't expound on here because we're almost out of time and Roxy's barking, is that live life to the fullest as soon as you can. Because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. And that is from experience. And this is Ronan Kazi signing off. Thank you, YouTube. Help me get to 500, please. Bye.